Welcome to Aspire to Lead, where we empower educators and school leaders to grow, inspire, and thrive. I'm your host, Joshua Stamper, author, speaker, and leadership coach, bringing you conversations that spark transformation, challenge the status quo in education, and equip you to make a lasting impact on your campus or in your district. For more information and resources, visit joshstamper.com as we're looking to ascend to new leadership heights together. All right, we are back, Aspire Leaders, and I'm so excited for my guest, Megan Diede, as I have witnessed greatness online for so long, and to be able to connect with her in person has been such a joy, and I cannot wait for this conversation. So with that, Megan, thank you so much for being on Aspire to Lead.
Oh, thank you, Josh, for having me. I'm excited for this conversation today.
Yeah, and it's not very many times that I have a guest that's actually in my time zone. So congratulations for being maybe the only person that I can think of that's in the Mountain Time Zone.
Yeah, we're in the mountain, and coming from Wyoming and Colorado, I feel like we're pretty much neighbors at this point.
Pretty much neighbors, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a time zone that people think is just made up and it's fantasy land out here, but it does exist, and I'm glad that you're a part of that. So yeah. Megan, let's get to know you a little bit more. Cool. Obviously, you're in Wyoming. You're doing amazing things across the country, but I'd love to learn about your leadership and educational journey.
Sure. Oh, it's been a journey, and I absolutely love hearing about other educators and the journey that they've made into where they're at. Mine started in a classroom in South Dakota 15 years ago. I taught second and third grade for 15 years, and it was absolutely wonderful. And when I get asked the question like that educational leadership, it really was an educational leadership inside the classroom. You know, I led great teams with this. Just absolutely loved developing curriculum. I moved to Wyoming, and we needed an updated science curriculum for our district. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that, worked with the University of Wyoming, and we created this amazing curriculum. And through that work, I realized that we really could instruct students a little bit differently, so that as teachers, we're not feeling this overwhelming way of trying to fit it all in, if you will. So through that work, I just kind of started to realize that there's a better way to help my students in the classroom. And I also felt pretty excited to come to work every day. So 15 years, I just left the classroom in May, and now speak around talking about this amazing work that I found that's working, and also have my hands in how to help other educators become speakers and better their professional development. So just kind of on this journey of leadership outside of the classroom, but still very much connected.
Well, we were neighbors before, I guess, because I grew up in Minnesota and you were in South Dakota. So
yes, we've been neighbors for a minute.
I guess so. That's crazy.
That. Yeah.
So let's talk about the connection piece. I know you talk about this a lot. You're in my algorithm, Megan. I don't know why, but I see a ton of videos that you're putting out there, and you talk about connection being the bridge between people and purpose. And I'd love for you to expand on that, but then also talk about what that looks like in the classroom between the students and the adults.
Yeah. So my definition for connection is that bridge between the people and the purpose. And one word that I always come back to is purposeful. A lot of times in the classroom, we start doing things, and then we almost get overwhelmed by all of the stuff. And you have to take a minute and say, what is the purpose for what I'm doing, right? And does that create connection? Connection for me is more than just building a relationship, right? Here's a story for you. All right, Joshua. So I, around Christmas time, love the Pentatonics. Absolutely love them. In fact, if it was appropriate to listen to them all year long, I would, but I'm pretty sure my husband would be rather annoyed. So
it is. I'm going to give you that permission, Megan. It is allowed.
Yeah, thank you. And so the day after Thanksgiving, which when all of the Christmas decorations come out, that's when Pentatonics plays through my house. And he surprised me with tickets to go watch their concert. And I was very excited. We were on the floor, but every song that came on, I kept hoping and wishing that it would be the song Hallelujah, my favorite song. And so waiting, love all of their stuff, never came on, right? But the experience was there, and I was connected to it. And at the very end, right, they played my favorite song. And it was amazing because no one sung along, right? Everybody just listened and was just connected to what was going on. I say this because when we go to a concert or when we go listen to something, we feel a connection with the performers. And I don't have a relationship, unfortunately, with anybody on the pentatonics group. But I did have a connection, right? And an experience that I will remember forever. And that's the type of connection between that people and purpose, right? It was a purposeful connection that they made for me, that experience. And that's the kind of thing that I want to put into my classrooms, into my teaching. Our leaders, to help our teachers succeed in that, is building that connection through the instruction that they're giving in their classrooms.
I'm so glad you ended with instruction, because I wanted to move into that space. So you made my job a lot easier with that bridge. So when we're talking about that instructional shift, what are some of the changes that teachers can make in order to move from like compliance driven to more meaningful learning?
Yeah. Oh, well, first of all, you can't overhaul, right? It's not this huge grandiose, let's do this new thing. There's nothing new in education. It's just how we're looking at it. We just look at things differently. And I talk a lot about this 1% shift. It kind of reminds me of that Atomic Habits book, where just this 1% change. And when you shift just 1%, 3 minutes of a lesson or 15 minutes of your day, can really change the atmosphere in your classrooms. And those shifts can look very simple, right? Right now, our students are coming to us with all kinds of different things: home life, learning styles, experiences. And it's hard to differentiate for 25 kids in a classroom or for a building of kids. But if you give them multiple access points, which we call them pathways of learning, you're able to kind of differentiate your instruction. And those small shifts could be putting in a movement piece, right? Moving to a vocabulary word rather than just writing it down. It could be a small shift of how you're having students show their thinking rather than just writing it on a worksheet, right? So it's little tiny shifts in the already required curriculum that we have to give our students that makes us as the teachers more of the designer rather than just delivering that.
So you use that term pathways to learning often.
Yes.
Can you describe what that is?
Absolutely. So it's my framework. It is the way that my students in my classroom found their way to learning. It became, once I implemented these 7 pathways, you're talking about movement, visual arts, storytelling, auditory, hands-on, right? And when you start putting those little pieces in, those different access points, those different pathways into your instruction, it's fun to create, right? The joy comes back into teaching. Your leaders are seeing that your kids are engaged and the differentiation is happening. And you're moving from that compliance driven teaching and that coverage, right, to more of that connection piece. And students are still getting everything that they need. It just looks a little bit different in how you're delivering that.
All right. So if people are listening, they're like, yes, I want to do this. I want to implement the 7 pathways. However, they're fearful of potentially the lesson feeling scattered or less rigorous. What's some advice you would provide them?
Yeah. Well, so Joshua, I'm sure you and we have different pathways to learn. When we go to a conference, right, and we sit down and we listen, and the presenter is presenting the things, maybe you're attached to the visual piece, right? That's how you're learning. And I'm really attached to the auditory piece, what they're saying, right? And some people need to jot down and doodle and do their visual arts piece, like sketch notes, right? When you implement different pathways, those are the different pieces. So as an educator hopping into this different way of thinking, you're going to gravitate towards the one that you learn best by. I'm a visual arts person and hands-on. My classroom's kind of like the Hobby Lobby clearance section, right? Like there's stuff everywhere at any time. I'm like, can we add some glue and glitter? No. So it's kind of like, how can you put in your own spin on your instruction and you won't lose the rigor, right? You still have to have clarity of what your standard is and where you're going. It's that backwards mapping piece, right? But When you're wondering when to put these in is when you know your students are going to struggle on that piece. That's when you should try a pathway, right? If you're like, oh, these students are going to have a hard time with this piece, try to elevate it with a different way to get to your students, right? And you're going to start to learn how your students learn best by what kids like movement, what kids like visual arts, and you can kind of give them those different experiences through that.
Well, as a former art teacher, my classroom was a sensory overload, so I totally understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, I have plenty of pathways of learning for my kids. So let's talk about the purposeful classroom, especially purposeful learning. I know that's something big. So what does that experience look like for our teachers in practice? Like, what are you doing when you're getting into classrooms to help them understand what that concept is?
Yeah. So, especially our new teachers coming in, what happens is they're kind of inundated with all the things that they need to cover, right? It's this coverage thing like, get this all in. Good luck. You have so many months. And we try to, right? We just go quick through it. We're trying to do lesson one, day one, lesson two, day two, and we just forge forward. And what happens is there's that disconnection. There's a disconnection with the teachers to the content, right? They're not feeling connected to what they're teaching, and then they lose that purpose. And then there can be this disconnected relationship for the students as it relates to what they're learning. And then behaviors come up, right? It's that disconnected behavior piece. So when you're first starting and figuring out how this works as a leader, as a teacher, we come in and we look at what is it do we need to teach our students? What clarity do we need to have? And then we start working on what's the creativity side? What are those things that are the flexible learning versus the non-negotiables, and how can we move just these little pieces? And so then we kind of have this timeline of what a unit would look like, or our end goal, and when can we put in these different experiences and these pathways to help bring some life into our teaching.
All right, so let's talk about the overwhelm, because that's not just new teachers. That can be veterans too, especially depending on what initiatives are going and being pushed onto the teachers for the entire year. So if we have someone that's listening and they feel like, I'm just trying to get through the day, that's my mindset. We're in the spring. That's pretty much happening across the board for a lot of folks. But if there's something that they can implement as far as an instructional shift that's going to immediately begin to change the experience for the students, what would you recommend with that?
Yeah. And Josh, I think that's exactly why I started doing what I was doing. Is about year 5 or 6, I realized, man, this is exhausting. And I love these kids. I love teaching. I love working with educators, and I needed to find a better way to make that work. And it was just kind of me falling back in love with what I'm teaching my students, right? Just really feeling connected to it. Second grade has this topic of learning what erosion is. And that didn't sound like a very fun topic to teach, but man, I challenged myself and thought, how can I make this more enjoyable for me to teach and for my students to learn? And it comes with that creativity. Educators, gosh, we are absolutely amazing people. We can be in the streets of Las Vegas and pick each other out without lanyards. We know exactly who we are, and we love so hard for what we do. And to bring that piece in, right? If you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling you're not getting it all in, maybe just take a step back and think, what is the purpose of today? Just take today, right? Just take tomorrow, and one step into how can I feel connected to these students through what I get to teach them, what I get to have them learn from me, and just take one small shift in their creativity.
I love that you are talking in small chunks. It's not too overwhelming for folks, because sometimes it can feel like you're drinking from a fire hose,
Yeah,
especially when you're trying to change things so quickly.
and that's one thing that I'm like, do not do an overhaul. I'm not asking you for a crazy room transformation, although those are amazing. I'm not asking for lamination that your spouse cuts out during a movie on the weekend, right? This is just small shifts to bring some joy for both the educator and the students. And then ultimately, our leaders in the building are starting to see that change inside their buildings, and scores go up. I mean, it just is a snowball effect.
For sure. All right. I want to talk about that beautiful resource behind you, which
Yeah.
is Elevated Educator, turning classroom lessons into engaging experiences using the 7 pathways of learning. Obviously, our conversation has been touch points of that resource, but I'd love for you just to share out why that book even exists. You had talked about the shift in your classroom, but I'm wondering why you created that resource.
Sure. Well, we present with Innovative Schools Summit. We've been with them for a while now, excuse me, and they had sat in our lessons and our sessions, and they came to say, "Do you ever thought about writing a book?" I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, it would be really great to get this in the hands of educators. And so through that work, we developed what is how to elevate yourself as an educator, whether you're in the classroom, whether you're helping in a classroom, whether you're the leader in the building, you're an instructional coach. This book provides you with the foundation of how to elevate lessons, how to elevate your instruction, but with those small shifts, right? The back of the book is 80 plus ideas of things that you can do in classrooms, ideas for leaders to give to their teachers of these small shifts. And what's really great is it can work for any grade, any age, because educators are really great at getting an idea and then flipping, changing, molding it to the class that they're instructing right now. So it's just full of what we wanted. And I say we, I actually have a duo. Her name is Kara. Kara Rigsby we present together sometimes, and she is the co-author of this book also. And we just wanted to provide educators with this easy implementation. It's not a bunch of theory. It's just a here you go, try this out. And we've seen such success in classrooms and in buildings. So we're pretty excited about the book.
Yeah, it's awesome. And breaking news, there's a companion guide for the book.
Yes, breaking news on the Aspire to Lead podcast. We are in the middle of writing a companion guide. We want this to be something for leaders and teachers to help build those types of lessons and instruction in their classrooms and in their buildings. So it is literally a guide on how to use the Elevated Educator. So be on the lookout for that.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll have to highlight that when it is released for everyone to make sure that they grab not only the book, but also the companion guide, which will be a huge resource for folks. Absolutely. Let's shift a little bit, because not only do you have that resource, you have a PD in your pocket with your podcast, Integrated EDU. So will you share out what that podcast is all about and why folks, after they listen to this conversation, should head over and subscribe to that podcast?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, Integrated EDU is a conversation between two educators that have a passion, right? And so Kara and I hop on and we talk about classroom happenings. She's still teaching 3rd grade. I go in there and I take over a class when she allows me. And we just talk about all things education, right? Our last one was it's the end of May when this podcast came out, and it's coverage, burnout, and the connection shift, right? The end of the year trap that we fall into. And we just hit real life things that are happening in education and how we can kind of overcome those. What's really great is that our podcast leads us, those topics are straight to a blog. And so if you're wanting more information or a nice read, we have that also.
Well, let's talk about other things that you offer, because I've been flashing your website up as the conversation has been going. For those who are watching on YouTube, obviously that's visual for you, but I know you provide a ton. You've talked about keynotes, PD, blogs. We've talked about the book and the podcast, but is there anything else that you want to share out as far as resources and things that you provide to educators?
Sure. Yeah, aside from, our keynote speaking, and we do the day trainings and workshops, but one thing that we're really passionate about and that works really well is our long-term relationships with schools and districts and organizations, right? We're very much believers in not a one and done. So we'll come in and throughout the year, or the relationship that we see best fits, and work with teachers to build these lessons, to help coach through that, right? We're kind of that bridge between the leader and the teacher. We get a lot of principals are like, I've been saying this, but my teachers aren't listening. And I say, yeah, I say it the same exact way, but for some reason they hear it from me. It's just how that works, right? It's that parent parent situation. So yeah, we have that offered, and we just try to provide so much value to our educators so that they can take what we have and implement it as needed.
So is Kara near you if you're taking over a classroom?
Yes. So I love that you asked that. Thank you. She is my best friend, my business partner. We taught for about 12 years in the same building, and the last 5 together. We shared a wall, stood outside our classroom doors and drank coffee and greeted kids. Gosh, she is just an amazing educator and great thought partner. So we get to do this life, together and kind of work through that. And she's just an absolutely amazing person.
Well, shout out to Kara. And that's huge that you have someone that you can, do everything with. It's not you doing it by yourself. So
yeah. And she's a powerhouse when it comes to consulting and coaching. She's absolutely amazing working with teams. So when we come in, you get both of us for the price of one, I guess you could say. And we're just in there helping and coaching.
Very cool. Well, we're going to have all of the links in the show notes for folks to take a look at the book, the podcast, and of course your website. And we'll end this conversation in a little bit here with how people can connect with you on social media. But first, Megan, I'd love to ask all my guests about actionable items. So if there's something that they've maybe touched on in this conversation that our aspiring or current leaders can do, in the future, I'd love for you to provide a recommendation for them to take action off this conversation.
Yeah. The action to take is to just do it. Just try something different. I know we're itching, like, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if I should try this. And I say, go for it. Go for it. Our students deserve for us to be silly, right? They want us to be that teacher, and we should own up to that. Your teachers want you to be that leader. If you always start your staff meeting a certain way, switch it up, try something different, and then say, hey, I tried something different today. What'd you guys think about that? Right. And just to support each other through education. I said earlier that there's nothing new in education. It's just how we look at it. So I think just taking a different lens and taking that 1% shift into becoming a better version of yourself for your teachers and for your students.
Should that be dependent on the calendar of the school year?
Yes, it should. I mean, I think, you know what, though? My kids have 6 days left of school. Yeah. And what a time to give it a go, right? They're already doing the things. They're already, it's a nice day outside, but I think there's no better time to start than right now.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking a lot of people are going to consume this as soon as it comes out. However, if someone finds the podcast in April or January or sometime, I think the advice can be at any point in the year, and you can always make that shift. So I love that you said that.
Absolutely.
All right. So Megan, how can folks connect with you? Obviously, like I said, for the visual audience, they saw your website, but would you share that out? And then of course, how people can connect with you on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. You can visit our website to get more information at integratedk12.com. Social media, we are on all the handles. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, at Integrated K-12 or Integrated EDU. And then Kara and I also have our own LinkedIn for Megan Diede and then Kara Rigsby. So any of those would be a great way to contact us. If you're looking for resources or ideas and you can't find what you need on the website, just go ahead and email us. It's Megan at Integrated K-12, and we'd be happy to help.
Awesome. I'm going to say for Megan, your 1% change needs to be that you listen to Christmas music all year round.
Yes. Thank you.
And the reason for that is because I do that.
Yeah. It's best.
I need more folks to do that so I don't look odd in the music 365 with Christmas. So
I'm with you, Josh. Let's do it.
I
would love to hear how many other people are also wanting to have this Christmas year round. I think we should just kind of start creating that community.
Yeah, it's just a movement that we've now initiated. So let us know. For those who are listening, if that's you, drop it in the comment either on YouTube. I know Spotify does that too. So we'd love to find out who our people are. And, if you're not, maybe that could be your 1% change.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Megan, it's been a joy to talk with you. I love the work that you're doing, not only with the PD and the keynotes, but also you have some wonderful content on social media. I think it's making a huge impact in the lives of educators. And I'm just so grateful for not only the wisdom that you provided in this conversation, but your time today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.